We do have a quorum.
Okay, I'm gonna give it about another minute or so just to see if people who maybe joined the other meeting or will come on to this one. All right, let's go ahead and start the August 20th, 2021 St. Paul Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being held remotely as it's not practical nor prudent for the commission and its committees to meet in person or pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.02. In light of the ongoing pandemic, planning commissioners cannot be present at the regular location, and all members of the planning commission will attend this meeting by telephone or other electronic means. We will begin this meeting by taking a roll call. Sonia?
Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Grill?
Present.
Commissioner Hood? Commissioner Holt?
Here.
Commissioner Kantner?
Here.
Commissioner McMurphy?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell?
No.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Presley? Commissioner Riley?
Here.
Commissioner Risberg?
Here.
Commissioner Said?
Here.
Commissioner Tagioff?
Here.
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Underwood? Commissioner Yang?
Here.
And I just see Commissioner Underwood. Are you here now?
Yes, ma'am, here.
Okay. And Chair Rangel Morales?
Here.
That's it.
All right, so the first item on the agenda, we still have a vacancy for the secretary position at the board, at the commission level. If there's any interest from anybody that would like to do it, I would ask that you go ahead and email me or Luis so that we can talk about it. So let us know. And then the other item is I do believe we will start going back to in-person meetings starting on September 3rd, and I'll turn over to Luis to see if that's still accurate. Luis?
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I was going to cover that in my announcements as well. You had inquired internally about whether we've heard any different about the plan to resume in-person meetings, much like the City Council. And we've been told that that is still the plan. So yeah, if nothing changes, our next meeting would be an in-person one on September 3rd at 8:30. Just wanted to remind folks, commissioners will remember that masks are required in any city or county buildings, and we do meet in room 40A and B. Those of you that are new, Let us know if you need help in finding that room, because some of you have joined during the pandemic. Though I've also been told it's an ever-evolving situation, so it may change with limited notice. So just look out your emails to see if anything comes through on that point. And then I also have a couple more announcements, Chair. I'm not sure if you were done with your comments.
Oh, I am. Go ahead, Luis.
Okay. You may heard that this week at the City Council there was a little bit of activity. The City Council did vote to approve the elimination of parking minimums on a 6-to-1 vote. They also voted to approve the rezoning of 695 Grand Avenue to T3. Both of those consistent with the Commission's recommendations. So I wanted to congratulate staff, Tony Johnson, who was our parking study lead, as well as Menika Mohan for her project management and engagement support on that one, and Emma Siegworth on the 695 Grand project. But I also wanted to thank the Commission for all of their hard work on both of those fronts. Certainly a lot of great conversation and consideration in that. And last, I wanted to take a minute to recognize Menika Mohan, Principal City Planner. She has some bittersweet news. She'll be leaving PED soon to begin a new opportunity with NEO Partners. And so I just wanted to say for a couple minutes, reflect a bit on Menika's work with us. She's been instrumental to the city since she joined in 2018. Managing the Highland Bridge project for the city following the announcement by Fordland of their selection of Ryan as the master developer for the site. In addition to planning and zoning and land use, this involved working on development finance, grant applications and management, phasing, working with the city attorney's office and financial services offices, overseeing the environmental review, coordinating various departments and decision making, communicating with Ryan, the redevelopment agreement, and ongoing community engagement. And then she's also, as you know, has made multiple rounds of master plan amendments and zoning text amendments through the city review process. She's been staffed to our comprehensive and neighborhood planning committee, been the North End district planner, also jump-started our work on the BIPOC developer initiative, which you'll be learning more about in the future here, and has also served as acting planning director in my absence. I really do appreciate all that she's done to challenge us in the city, to think about how we do our work with an equity lens, and really appreciate all of her efforts and perspectives, and wish her very well in this new endeavor. Also sad to see her go. So she's here, and I do wish her well, and thank you, Menika.
Thanks, everyone. I can't believe I've been here for 3 years already. It's been an amazing experience to come back and work in my hometown. I think not a lot of planners get to do that, and it's really been a fulfilling experience. So I'm excited that I get to stay in St. Paul, working on different projects from a different lens. So I'm sure I will see all of you in the future.
Great. I see Commissioner Yang has his hand up. Commissioner Yang.
Good morning, everyone. I have never been attending any meeting in person, so I'm looking forward to the next month's planned in-person meeting. My question is there any parking permit we can use if we park somewhere? I have never been there before. Thank you.
Luis.
Yes, Commissioner Yang, we do have some parking passes or reimbursement that Sonia Butler on our team can help you with, and we will get that information to the newer commissioners so you can take advantage of that downtown. And I see Sonia has her hand up.
Yes, Sonia. Sonia.
Hear me? Hello?
Hi, Sonia.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can
would
you hear
you
me?
like to answer Commissioner Yang's question?
Yes. I don't know if those parking passes that we had are valid. They were trying to get rid of them at one time, so I'll have to check and see if if the passes I have are still valid. So I'll let you guys know ASAP.
Okay, thank you for
Thank,
that. If you could just send an email to all of the commissioners, I'm sure we would all appreciate it.
thank you.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, is zoning committee. There was no meeting this past Thursday, well, 2 Thursdays ago. I'll turn to Commissioner Riley about the next upcoming meeting.
Thank you, Chair. I have information on the upcoming site plan review committee meeting on Tuesday, August 24th. There is no business for that meeting, and so they'll be having a internal group discussion and training for city staff, I think related to technology. So that's coming up for next week. And then the zoning committee agenda is escaping me at the moment, so give me just a second. And I'll pull it up here. We will be meeting on August 26th, so a week from yesterday. And there'll be the item number is 21-291-082 231 front, which is a rezoning. And I assume that meeting will also be remote because it is before that September 3rd date, and perhaps staff can confirm. Thank you.
Chair and Commissioner, I'll jump in. Is Luis? That's correct. It will continue to be remote through the end of August.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is comprehensive and neighborhood planning. Commissioner Grill.
All right, so this is Commissioner Grill. I'm going to do parts of this update since I was not at the August 10th meeting. On the August 10th meeting, there were 2 items on the agenda: the homeless services zoning study and the Ford open space lot report. And we had a meeting also on August 18th that covered the 1 to 4 unit infill housing study phase 1 amendments that we will see here at a later date. So starting with the homeless services zoning study, I've asked one of our vice chairs, Rich Holst, if he would give a quick update. And then I believe Bill Germany has a presentation on some of the items.
Good morning, Commissioners. Regarding the homelessness, we took a look at this study. This was a pretty significant discussion, I think, for our committee. We made some changes to what was recommended by staff. The first item we changed was for triggering conditional use permits. We changed the number from 5,000 square foot size facility to 7,000 square foot size facility. We just felt that 5,000 feet was a pretty small facility, and even at 7,000 was pretty small. Just for comparison, Freedom House is about 16,000 square feet, 17,000 square feet, and I forget the name of it, but the one up on Dayton's Bluff is also around 16,000 feet. So sort of the idea was to make it a little easier for very small day service facilities to be able to open a day service facility without too much difficulty, just to make it a little bit more flexible. The number is not really tied to anything super specific. It was just sort of tied to like, okay, we just felt that 5,000 was kind of small, but we used Freedom House, for example, as comparison. Additionally, I think you've probably seen the recommendation from the city does not include the half-mile perimeter. So this is basically essentially okay anywhere in the city of St. Paul. So there's not a distance requirement from an overnight facility. We added zoning. So that would allow for day service facilities. So that would include T1, B1, and then F3 and up on the Ford site. You would still need a cup For example, though, in B1, well, let's see, and just correct me, staff, if I get this wrong, but permitted by right in, sorry, just a second. I think it's right here in the thing. The proposed to be classified as a civic and institutional, okay, proposed to be put in the following zoning tickets. So, what is by right in T1, T2, T3, T4, B1, BC, there we go. The map will help a lot, right? So where by right is on the map. So I think the purple allows you to do it by right, and then the pink would sort of allow it with a conditional use permit. We also removed, there was a line in here about that if you had a homeless services facility that you had to have a trash plan to pick up in and around the immediate area, and we removed that portion. The feeling of the committee, I think overall, was that this is something that should be part of a conditional use permit if that's going to be required. I think that's all the changes that we had in the homelessness service zoning survey.
All right, thank you, Rich. I'm gonna let Bill give his update as well, and then let folks add questions and comments at that point, if that's all right with you, Chair. All right, Bill?
Thank you, Chair Reno Morales, Commissioners. Commissioner Holst covered it mostly, but this map is the best overview of what's being proposed. That purple color, the darker color, is where the use would be allowed by right. And the pink color is where it would be allowed by right only if it was small, 7,000 square feet or less, and greater than that with a conditional use permit. During the Comprehensive and Neighborhood Planning Commission committee meeting, those additional zoning districts were added to the pink, B1, T1, and F3. We talked about during the meeting. I just wanted to call attention to the fact that knowing the intent there, staff added BC, which is generally just along Grand Avenue, to the pink as well, because BC is considered a more intense zoning district than B1. It's in between B1 and B2. So that seemed consistent with the intent of where you all were going on that. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have for me. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I would need a motion from someone in the committee.
Moved by Holst.
Okay, so the motion is moved by Commissioner Holst to recommend approval of the draft resolution and forward to the City Council for adoption. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Grill. I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Holst, seconded by Commissioner Grill. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Sonia, can we get a roll call?
Hope you can hear me better now. Can you hear me better now?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Grill,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurtry, Commissioner McMurtry,
Yes.
Commissioner Said,
Yes.
Commissioner Risberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Underwood.
Abstain.
Oh, abstain, okay. Commissioner Riley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagia,
Yes.
Commissioner Yang,
Yes.
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Kantner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Chair Rango Morales.
Yes.
$14 with 1 abstention.
All right, so that motion carries. So the recommendation of approval of the draft resolution for the homeless services zoning study and to forward that to City Council for adoption. I'll turn over again to Commissioner Grill for the next item.
All right, this is Commissioner Grill. The next item is the open space law specific standards for the Ford site zoning study, the proposed amendments for that, and then the public realm master plan. I'm going to try to do the same thing with Rich here. If you can give a quick update, and then if Manica can fill any gaps, that would be wonderful.
Sure. This one mostly had to do with, as we know, just kind of cleaning up some language around green roof areas. The only thing that we changed on here was there's an item that says lot coverage bonus for green roof areas. Projects to provide functional green roof can receive a 1% lot bonus for every 1% of functional green roof provided, up to a 10% lot coverage bonus. That's the only language that we changed on here. Originally, it had come to us with this 10% lot coverage bonus as a possibility. It's my understanding that Highland District Council recommended this be changed down to 5. We again changed this back to 10%. But this was sort of, sort of barely passed out of Comprehensive Neighborhood Planning Committee. So it was lots of people were fine with 5. Some people supported 10, but it did ultimately pass with 10%. So that's all I got on that.
Yes, thanks for that, Commissioner Host. Is Ms. Mohan going to speak on the matter?
Through the chair, commissioners, I was not planning on giving a presentation. I can provide more clarity around it if commissioners need it, but Commissioner Holtz presented it pretty succinctly. The staff recommendation going to the Comprehensive Planning Committee was a 5% based on the letter that we received from Highland District Council, and the commissioners discussed that for some time at the committee, but ultimately recommended the 10%, which was in the original staff proposal that this body saw in June.
And for purposes of the commissioners who weren't at the comprehensive committee, could you just explain what the difference between the 5 and 10% are?
Yeah, so it's the amount of bonus of lot coverage. So lot coverage is the amount of the building that covers the lot. And so what we are trying to do in this amendment is to remove a problematic definition that doesn't sort of serve the purpose anymore. There's a definition that is related to open space for lots on the Ford site. There was a bonus tied to it for, not a bonus, but for every green roof that you provided, you were able to meet some of this open space standard, but because of the problematic definition, the incentive for green roofs was lost in the master plan. So we're doing a couple things with this amendment. We're removing the problematic definition, and then we're re-adding the incentive for green roofs. And so the incentive is for every percentage of green roof that you add, you get a % lot coverage bonus. But you also have to meet all of the other dimensional standards that are within the Ford zoning and the master plan. So that's how the lot bonus would work. So it's for every 1% of green roof that you provide, you get a 1% lot coverage bonus, maxing out at a 10% lot coverage bonus. So that's 80% lot coverage max for any of the buildings.
And could you just remind us really quick, on the original master plan, what was the incentive that was put on there?
So the incentive that was in the original master plan was tied to that definition of open space. So you could meet up to 50% of your open space requirement if you had what was called amenity space next to the green roof. So there's a lot of challenges with the Department of Safety Inspection implementing this definition. Adjacent can mean different things in the code. So that was how the incentive worked. So if you had like a patio or porch next to a green roof, that area could count up to 50% of your open space for lot coverage on the building. But because the broad definition of open space, we were counting anything that met that definition.
And how much open space was required per building?
Generally 25%. But most sites, because the definition of open space is areas covered by landscape materials, gardens, walkways, patios, recreation facilities, or play areas, because of that broad definition, anything that met that definition was being counted. So projects often have a 40% to 30% right now open space on the lot.
So the final question that I have, Ms. Mohan, is, does the 10% allow a building to cover more space than what was otherwise allowed in the master plan?
Potentially, like as I've said at a comp plan committee, that lot coverage bonus, you could potentially get more space if you can meet all the other dimensional standards that are already on the Ford sites. So there are already regulations for FAR, setbacks, design standards, stormwater regulations. So potentially yes, but it also depends on if you can meet all the other standards, or if the applicant is seeking a variance, they could extend. So it's hard to say yes or no, because there's many other regulations that govern the size and mass of buildings on the Ford site.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mohan. Commissioner Tagia?
Yes, just one question. So I wanted to understand, before we move forward, the original legislative intent within the master plan for requiring open space in the first place. Why did that requirement exist, and what was it trying to achieve? That would help me understand kind of whether the revision also achieves that original legislative purpose or not.
Sure, through the chair, Commissioner Tagia. So as many of you know, I wasn't here for the original round of master plan amendments, but I have read the previous staff reports. There was a lot of concern about the massing and size of buildings on the site. So I think the goal of the open space per lot definition and regulation was to ensure that there was space or sort of rooms for building to breathe. I also see that Tia Anderson is here from DSI, who was here during that the original planning, and she may maybe be able to answer this question better than I. What we found, though, and I think this sort of happens when you have a plan and now you have actual projects. So now we're in the site plan review phase and we're reviewing actual projects on the Ford site, that there are many other regulations already on the site that achieve this goal. So we already have setbacks and FAR and stormwater regulations and design standards, just to name a few, that sort of, and lot coverage itself. So there is already a lot coverage regulation on the Ford site, which is different than our T districts, that already achieve that goal of massing and sort of achieving that breathability between buildings. So what we're finding as staff is that this definition was sort of problematic in that it was very broad, and so we were losing the incentive for the green roof, but also that it wasn't really serving a purpose because we had these other regulations. So we felt that it was okay to remove it because we had already achieved the intent of the master plan.
Got it. That's very helpful. So just following on from that, it sounds like then that what this says is there's probably sufficient open space between buildings already, or even more than we need in some respects. And so this incentivizes developers by saying, yes, the building will take a little bit more land area, but you'll deliver a real amenity for residents, and you'll genuinely incentivize the green roof. So overall, we're probably doing better than we were before. Is that reasonable?
That's what staff believe. We feel like it will be easier to implement and we'll get the incentive back.
Wonderful, thank you.
My thought on it is it, and I was one of the, so this is just a comment for the commissioners. My comment, I was one of the people who voted against the going from 5,000 to 10,000. And my thought process was exactly on what Commissioner Tagioff just asked. And it was, is it better to potentially have open space on the ground or green space or undeveloped space on the ground, as opposed to having a building that would potentially have a green roof that would be accessible only to residents of that particular building? And so that's the question I struggled with. And I understand what Ms. Mohan is saying in terms of that there's additional requirements like the FARs and so on and so forth. But and then on top of that, I was also thinking about all the negotiation that went into place between community and city council and just about everybody that had an interest in the Portside Development Master Plan in concocting the requirements for open space or the area that could be developed in a particular lot. And so that's what sort of got me to vote for no and to keep it at 5,000 based on the district council's request that we do it at 5,000. So I just wanted to provide clarification for commissioners on that. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. Otherwise, I would need a motion coming from the committee.
And just to clarify through the chair, it's a percentage bonus, not a square foot bonus. So 5% was the district council recommendation and 10% is the comp plan committee's recommendation.
Right. Sorry, I misspoke. Thank you, Ms. Mohan.
So moved by Holst.
All right, so the motion coming out of committee is to recommend approval of the proposed amendments for the Ford open space for lots amendments and forward to City Council for adoption.
This is Commissioner Grill. I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Holst, seconded by Commissioner Grill. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, Sonia, can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Thomas? Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Commissioner Kantner?
No.
Commissioner Holst?
Yes.
Commissioner Yang?
Yes.
Commissioner Riley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tagia?
Yes.
Commissioner Grill?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurtry?
Yes.
Commissioner Said?
Yes.
Commissioner Underwood?
Yes.
Commissioner Risberg?
No.
No? Okay. Chair Rangel Morales?
I'm also a no.
Twelve to 3.
Okay, so that motion does carry. It's approved for our recommendations for the proposed amendments to the Ford open space proposed lots, and it will be forwarded to City Council for possible adoption. Is there anything else, Commissioner Grill?
No, I have nothing additional from the committee at this time.
All right, thank you for your report. Moving on to Transportation Committee, I'll turn over to Commissioner Risberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Transportation Committee last met on August 9th. First time we had met in a while, and we had a really good meeting discussing the city's update to the bicycle plan, which was adopted in 2015. I think it was amended in 17, and now we'll be doing a series of engagement efforts to hopefully approve the next update by the summer of 2022. And there'll be opportunities to provide input, but there's a survey online that I encourage members and the public to complete to help the city understand priorities for the 2022 bike plan. But it's really to identify future network priorities and more guidance on separated bike lanes and shared use paths. And I have to say that As we heard from Jimmy Shoemaker from Public Works, the city's already put in some over 60 miles of new bike paths, which was very encouraging, which was great. So moving on to our next meeting, which is this coming Monday, the 23rd. We will be learning about the Rice Street visioning study. The meeting will be at 4:30. We'll still be virtual, but we look forward to an interesting meeting there. So that concludes my report. If there are any questions, I'm open for that.
Commissioner Grill?
Yes, this is Commissioner Grill. I'm just curious, Commissioner Risberg, if there was any conversation about Kellogg Avenue and any additions to the bike plan for that, or connections from West 7th and the west side. I know when you're looking at the map and the plan that there's a pretty big gap on that side. And I was just curious if it came up at all in the meeting.
You know, I don't recall. Commissioner Grill, perhaps Bill Dermody, do you recall? Or any other members of the committee?
This is Commissioner Grill. I'm also happy to submit my comments. I just was, and I plan to do that. I just was wondering if it came up. So not a big deal one way or another.
Okay, thanks. I guess hearing none, no one recalls. So I don't think it did come up. So if there are no other questions, that would conclude my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Risberg. Moving on to Communications and Nominations Committee, Commissioner Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No report today.
Okay, thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is task force and liaison reports. I'll turn over. I know Commissioner DeJoy is gone. I don't believe Mr. Dermody might be here since Commissioner Risberg just called on him, so I'll go to Commissioner Grill again.
So this is Commissioner Grill. So for the Riverview Task Force Station Area Planning Committee, I'm never going to get the name of my actual committee correct. Our regular meeting for August was canceled, but we held on August 10th a walking tour for members of the committee. And the walking tour covered the Randolph, St. Clair, and Otto station areas. So staff and the knowledgeable members of the committee reviewed the areas, looked at notable areas of development, and just got more familiar with the station areas. And so the plan is to do at least one or two more of those over the course of the planning process. And we have a regular meeting that is also scheduled in September. So it seems like we are now going sort of deeper into those individual station areas, and I look forward to learning more about them as we move forward. But no action was taken in August.
Okay, thank you for that, Commissioner Grill. Any questions about the task force liaison reports? Next item on the agenda would be old business, and then new business, or any items that people would like to talk about at the upcoming Planning Commission meeting. Again, that meeting will be in person at the courthouse on Kellogg. And I think I just, for final comments, would like to take a moment again to recognize Ms. Mohan for her work, and would open the floor to anybody who would like to share a comment for her, as this, it does appear, would be her last Planning Commission meeting. Okay, well, Commissioner Grill.
Commissioner Grill. I did this in CNPC as well. Just want to say thank you. It's really been a pleasure for the 3 years working with you. I think we're all incredibly appreciative. And it looks like your new job is amazing. And so we really all do wish you luck in your new endeavor. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Commissioner Host?
Commissioner Grill pretty much covered everything I was going to say on there. So that I do have a question on our in-person meeting. Is that the basement of the courthouse? Is that the room you're describing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Host. And I will also echo Commissioner Grill's comments. Ms. Mohan, thank you for everything that you've done, for answering all our questions. And I wish you the best of luck. And I've really enjoyed getting to work with you and getting to know you. Commissioner Kantner?
Yeah, just one additional question about the potential in-person meetings. So would committee meetings stay virtual, or after the third, any committee meetings would also be in person?
I actually think, and Louise can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we have a comprehensive neighborhood committee meeting on the 1st, that one would also be in person. Is that correct, Louise?
Chair, Commissioners, that's my understanding, that the same rules around open meeting law apply to either commission or zoning committee, as well as the more legislative committees. That said, I'm going to explore potentially a different meeting room. I'm not totally sure if there is one, but for comprehensive neighborhood planning committee and transportation committee. So I'll stay tuned on that. If not, those of you that are new, our normal meeting location is the 13th floor of the City Hall Annex building. It's one of the floors of PED. So you take the elevator up, and there's a door you go through, and it's basically there on the left. So stay tuned on that, whether there's a different meeting room.
Commissioner Grill and then Commissioner Underwood.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Grill. I think there's a lot of questions around the return. I know that the mayor originally authorized, I think, like emergency use or emergency rules around the meetings and those being virtual. I think I'll probably send an email after this to you, Luis, and the chair. But I'm still feeling very uncomfortable about meeting in person. I know my day job, we have switched to definitely not before November returning to the office. I know there's probably a lot of people here who might also be uncomfortable with the return in light of Delta. I know the city council's back, and I know, like the county board is back, but they're also much smaller bodies versus planning commission. So I will be sending a letter. I know that planning and PED isn't in charge of the return back, but I'm hoping this is a conversation that can be ongoing, because I do think there are people that are uncomfortable at this point with returning in person. And particularly for CNPC, as we were talking at the beginning of the meeting, I was just picturing the room and all of us packed in there, and was not thrilled about that potential scenario.
Louise, would you want to answer that, and then I can turn to Commissioner Underwood?
Chair and Commissioner Grill, sorry. I personally kind of share your concern. So I have been sort of a broken record throughout the summer, raising the question, what's the plan? Are we still sticking to this plan? It's 2 weeks away. Are we? I do think it could change again, even in the couple weeks before the next meeting. That said, if this is an idea, not a suggestion, but perhaps Commissioner Grill, if you have some thoughts, maybe it's helpful to share those thoughts with the fellow commissioners. If others feel similarly, maybe there's a letter or something that goes out. It doesn't have to be that formal, but I think the extent to which I can share that with decision makers, I think that's a consideration. Noel Nix, who's in charge of sort of oversees boards and commissions, I guess he'd want to take a similar approach, and they're sort of following city council as well. So I think all this stuff is kind of tied together, but the more commissioners can maybe let us know the concerns, that would be helpful.
Commissioner Underwood.
Yes, thank you. I had similar questions, so I won't repeat those. I was noticing today, just after a year and a half of this group meeting remotely with our competent chair, just what a great, easy, smooth meeting this was. And I think about how many more committee meetings I have been able to attend because they were virtual, and being able to pop on and not have to call Bill Dermody and ask for the phone number to the room on the 13th floor so I could just listen in. I think that we do need to address this regarding the Delta variant and how policies are again quickly changing. But I also think this is a real moment for us to address the equity challenges that we have with city boards and commissions, and this one in particular, and access to participation, both as a commission member and as a community member. I think that this is absolutely the time for the city to take on how to do these meetings either hybrid or really look at the benefits of them being digital because I guarantee we have appointed a lot of planning commissioners in the case of COVID, and all of a sudden for them to have to figure out childcare, changing work schedules, speaking with their, family and employers about like how to make these meetings that the timing is unpredictable. The committees meet in the afternoon. It has never been easy. And it's definitely not something that all people can access. And I feel like going digital has been a real boon for us. So I just would ask that we, maybe the steering committee needs to meet and we can discuss this further, but we shouldn't COVID has taught us what we need to make sure we go back to better on, and this is one of them.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner Underwood, and I share them as well. I did reach out and I've had conversations with Mr. Warner about this, and it really, Louise, correct me if I'm wrong, but it really does seem that what's governing I think if it was up to me or probably city staff, if we could continue to do these virtually, because it does open the possibility for commissioners and accessibility for commissioners to participate. The virtual format certainly works. This particular discussion came up in the Board of Zoning for the BZA when we met a few sessions ago, I think in July. And Mr. Warner's response to that question, Commissioner Underwood, was essentially there's a Minnesota law that requires us to be in a public location. And what was allowing us to do this virtual format was the emergency order by the mayor or the governor or somebody's emergency order that allowed us to be able to be in a virtual format. And without that order, there's really no way that it sounds, let me rephrase that. It sounds like the advice would be that in order for us to be compliant with that law, we would need to be doing this in person. Is that correct, Louise?
Yes, Chair, Commissioners, that's my understanding through CAO. They've it all goes back to the open meetings law, and there certainly, I think, needs to be an emergency order that's tied to state law. I believe it can be through the mayor's office. Doesn't rely on the governor. I don't believe, but it's the current law is quite limiting as it relates to virtual meetings. I think it says something along the lines of for public sort of boards and commissions that you have to be you're allowed to be virtual if you're militarily deployed, or you have like some specific some health reason that's specific to you. And there's a cap, like you can only be virtual 3 meetings a year or something like that. It's quite limiting in the absence of an EO. So I would it seems like there's room for legislative fixes. I know that's been on Noel's mind. and he's sort of asked CAO if there's recommended changes to that. But I agree with the ideas that there's a lot more accessibility with virtual meetings, or at least having the ability to have that as part of the meeting if the meeting's a hybrid one where you have some people in person and some virtual. There are some technology questions there that we'd have to figure out, but it's not a reason to not explore it and pursue it further, in my opinion.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Holst?
Just one more comment is that, it looks like obviously in the short term, we're gonna have to meet in person. Obviously there are real concerns around the Delta variant, and I know when we were talking about going back to in person, I don't think this Delta variant was nearly as prevalent. So I think we thought we were maybe on a little bit different trajectory. My overall comment would be that I don't know if there's a possibility, but an outdoor meeting space, weather permitting, for the next couple of weeks too, would be, at least shouldn't be taken off the table. So if there's someplace outdoors that we can meet, which would be interesting, and obviously safer. So.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, I guess we will all just be, Commissioner Tagia?
Yes, just to add my support to this, I have very similar feelings to Commissioner Grill on this, and I would support any letter and would propose either a hybrid format or outdoor meeting, both for access and safety reasons.
Commissioner Riley?
Yeah, I guess if we're lending support to that concept, I'd like to also lend support to that. I think given that city employees are not, I think, going back until January, I think that's accurate, seems unwise and unfair to have boards and commissions also being in person, if there's any way to avoid that. But as a public employee myself, I'm also concerned about whether I'm going to have to start going back in person for our boards and commissions as well. So just something to think about. Thank you.
Luis?
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear about something Commissioner Riley said, that each department is sort of making their own business decision about which city staff are, being in person in the office, the frequency of that. And in some cases, it's just the nature of the job, like with a rec center or something like that, it's sort of only an in-person option. PED has decided to delay the kind of hybrid return to January at the earliest, but other departments have not followed necessarily that timeline. There's others that have made different decisions about timing. So it's just, I wanted to clarify that it's you've heard probably the PED version of it because you work with us.
Okay, any additional comments? I also join in on Commissioner Grill's, Tagia's, Riley's, Underwood's, really just about anybody else who would feel more comfortable continuing to do these virtually. Commissioner Hood, and I see Mr. Diata, so I'll call Commissioner on Mr. Diata first.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment that I do share some of the concerns that are raised regarding this going back for commissioners. And I also echo one comment that's made about equity. If we really want to have a broader citizen participation on our board, I think we need to kind of look at these open meeting laws, and maybe there's some entity that can lobby and at a state level and get those changed, because obviously those were written at a time where technology probably was not available or prevalent. So in light of the new technology and the equity and allowing the more a diverse selection of members, board members and commissioners, I think we need to take advantage of technology to advantage. And this is one way to do that. laws get written and laws get changed. If there's a way we can lobby at the state level to get the change to allow us to have a better participation for citizens on our board, I think that would be great. And again, the emergency may not be here again, I mean, still, or may have maybe subsided, but with all these variant coming up, the Delta, they're talking even a Lambda variant too. So who knows? I think it's really unfair for folks that are volunteering their time to be exposed to situations like that. I know I personally would not feel comfortable. I would do it if I have to, but if I given a choice, I'd rather be doing it remote, and that protects everybody's and their families also. So that's the comment I wanted to make.
Thank you, Yaya. Commissioner Hood?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo everyone's comments about returning to in-person meetings. And my understanding, just to clarify, is that if commissioners wanted to be proactive, it appears as if the best people to talk to would be state legislators. Is that correct? Or would reaching out to city council members or Mr. Nix, would that be a better option? I just wanted to ask that question just for clarity. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, Luis, could you further elaborate on your comments about how Mr. Nix could play a role in this, or why he was asking about that?
Yeah, Chair and Commissioners, I want to be, what I was planning on doing now is to email him to just make him aware of the conversation. It seems like there's at least a half or a majority of folks who are generally in line with trying to stay virtual or hybrid or something like that. And that we have there's some concerns, and that, just so that he can take that into account. And maybe if you all have individual comments you want to provide, that I'll just let him know that those might be coming. And I'm happy to share those. Maybe it's easier just to send them to me, and then I can compile and send them to him, so he's not getting a ton of information. In terms of the legislative change pieces, I think I'd suggest if folks who would like to work on this issue with us, let me know, and then maybe we can get a little committee of people. City Attorney's Office would most likely be involved, and I would imagine Noel as well. Just to put some ideas pen to paper. I don't expect that the change would happen quickly, just because obviously it's a process. But I think what we need to do is look at that part of state law, which I've looked at a bit, and it's been interpreted by CAO, and come up with some ideas for what it could look like, and or engage with like the League of Minnesota Cities or other groups that could be looking at it at a different scale. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioner Risberg? Commissioner Risberg?
Sorry, I was muted. I certainly share everybody's concerns. As a state employee, we're not required to return at all to the office, and I've chosen that direction. As long as we can continue virtually. I understand the open meeting law is a very different animal. What I was wondering about, Mr. Chair, I don't know if it's useful at this point, but would it make sense to try and express our support for continuing a virtual or hybrid format, should one become available, through a resolution, at least a straw poll or something that could show some sort of consensus that might be helpful moving forward with decision makers?
Well, I don't mind even just doing an informal vote. I think for resolution, it would be springing it on staff to come up with the language, unless someone from the commission would be willing to articulate that particular language of a resolution. But otherwise, I don't mind either. I just wouldn't want to put staff in that position at the end of this meeting, if possible. But certainly, a commissioner could move a motion for that. And if not, I could just, Luis, could we do an informal sort of roll count of which commissioners would prefer to, given the ongoing Delta variant, and perhaps have you communicate with Noel or someone else from the city about what can be done between now and then? Would that be appropriate, do you think?
Chair, I think that would be appropriate. And it would be helpful for me to be able to try to express the nature of this conversation. If there's there's a number attached to this. I was sort of doing an informal head count as we were talking, but yeah, if there's a more informal expression, I don't think that I frankly think that would be helpful. So and maybe I'd encourage it to be fairly broad, in terms of support for continuing virtual, hybrid, other formats that are safer given the pandemic. Yep.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to any commissioner who would like to make that motion. Well, I'll just do an informal vote, and the vote would essentially be, as planning commissioners, we're volunteering our time. Given that state employees and city employees are being given the discretion to return back at the beginning of the year, or at the earliest, we would request to continue to have our meetings virtually. It has allowed us, one, to participate, two, for members to have a higher participation rate, and members that would otherwise, or commissioners that would otherwise not be able to be serving in the commission. It certainly has opened those avenues in terms of equity. So we would just ask the city we would be asking the city to see what avenues we can explore to continue to meet virtually. And so it's an informal vote. We're not going to do a resolution, but I do think it would help for purposes of Luis being able to contact with people in the city. How the commission falls on this. So I'll call Sonia for the informal vote.
Okay, Commissioner Risberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Grill,
Yes.
Commissioner Riley,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
oh, sorry, Commissioner Tagia,
Yes.
Commissioner Yang,
Yes.
Commissioner Said,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurtry,
Yes.
Commissioner Underwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Holst,
Yes.
Commissioner Kantner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Chair Rangel Morales,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right. So Luis, I hope that's helpful as you reach out and continue to update us on what the status will be for the September 3rd meeting, and perhaps even the September 1st meeting for the Comprehensive Neighborhood Planning Committee.
Chair, yes, I think it is very helpful. And I'll move on this right away.
Thank you, Luis. I think we all would appreciate that. I see Commissioner Holst raised his hand, and I don't know if Commissioner Hood has a question or if his hand just remained up.
This whole just really quick. I mean, the vote may, and maybe I zoned out for a second. Just I hope we're clear that yes, this is about COVID, but it's also about equity, right? So even if the pandemic's over, this is something I think we want to explore, and I believe that was made clear, if I'm not mistaken. But I just want to double check that. So.
Yep, it was the two components to it. One is the ongoing pandemic, Delta variant, safety, and then the other component was access and diversity of participation.
Very good, thank you.
So seeing no additional questions. Okay, I will go ahead and end the August 20th, 2021 St. Paul Planning Commission meeting. Stay tuned to your emails. Something may or may not change. If not, we will see everybody in person at the basement of the Kellogg Courthouse. So thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.